Do you have any idea who you're messing with?
Anna hears the woman's voice from every direction, but all she sees is black. All around her is broken glass that reflects someone else's memories, yet she remembers every one of them. There's a warming glow beside her, but she can't look to it. It's as if her head is fastened in place, her eyes forced forward. Like always, Anna must do as her dream commands.
I won't be beaten. Whatever you think you'll find inside me is long dead.
It's getting hot now, and Anna almost can't take it. Something tugs along her sternum, a bubbling, blooming sensation she likens to being ripped apart from the inside out.
I'm nearly perfect.
Anna's eyes bolt open and she jolts up, calling out, "Thief!" As she does so. It isn't long before her gaze adjusts to the dim room around her, allowing her to see that she's amidst a caveat of stained cushions, broken beds, and collapsed furniture. This isn't her bed. She isn't surrounded by her plushies, and worst of all, her friends aren't around. That's strange. Anna had a nightmare, but it was different from the Armageddon she's become used to. There was no final struggle between the chaos-conjuring queen and the benevolent force Anna could never see. Instead, she heard the queen's voice, and it was unlike ever before. Gone was her usual pride. Savagery no longer laced her words and was instead replaced by fear and uncertainty. Even though this dream lacked the same overt, violent imagery, Anna still feared for her life. But this time, from the Queen's perspective, could the changes in her dream be due to her interactions with her lookalike? There's something nibbling at the back of Anna's mind, but she just can't put her finger on it. At best, she's starting to think that the Queen from her dreams has been Morrigan. Great, now she's feeling dumb considering how obvious that seems in retrospect. But that's as far as Anna's train of thought gets as it's halted by the loud creak of an opening door.
So, you're finally up.
It's only natural Anna looks towards the sound of the other Morrigan's voice. She's standing in the doorway, leaning on its frame and holding the mortal baby against her shoulder.
Come on, I'll show you around.
Morrigan turns, with no apparent concern for the baby in her arms. As she pivots, Anna fears she might drop the baby. The whipping motion of her spin could have made the baby cry or be sick or something like that, but instead it just giggles. At first, Anna's confused, but considering how rough and tumble Morrigan seems, it isn't so surprising that her baby is the same way.
Well?
Morrigan peeks her head back through the door.
You coming or what?
Not wanting to anger her, Anna jumps up from the ramshackle bed and follows after Morrigan. She keeps up with her pace, but makes sure to stay more than a few feet behind her.
Are we having breakfast?
Anna asks. She hasn't eaten anything since before the day Ruth returned. She figures some food might help take her mind off the recent events. They blare in her mind at a near constant rate. Not a second's gone by where she hasn't been bombarded by the images of Jesus bleeding out or the memory of Ruth's murderous glare. Conditions she never thought she'd see her friends in are the only way she can remember them now.
Breakfast? The hell you think this is? We're gods. We don't gotta eat every day. Only like once a year if you're effective with how you use your power. And even then, with enough divinity, you can go for way longer than that. I was wondering why you passed out after seeing the baby. I figured you hadn't done a single day of fighting in your life, so transforming back there must have taken it all out of you.
It's true, Anna doesn't use her divinity too often. Maybe to enhance her strength or to transform for a bit, but nothing more. Yesterday, Anna shapeshifted twice, something her body apparently isn't too used to doing. Far as she can tell, her divinity pales in comparison to her confident ditto. Being around Morrigan like this makes Anna feel an inadequacy she hadn't ever known. Despite all their great feats and accomplishments, not a single one of her friends ever made her feel so small. Anna watches as Morrigan pats the baby on the back while balancing it on her shoulder. It doesn't seem like the safest way to hold the infant, but somehow she manages, even as she steps onto an open windowsill. She calls before leaping from one open window to another, right over a wide alleyway. Once across, she peeks back at Anna with an expectant look in her eyes. So, Morrigan wants her to jump. Well, they're godlings, so a fall from this height shouldn't do any permanent damage. As much as she'd like to count herself among her peers, Anna hasn't even gotten the hang of regeneration. Whenever she tries to focus divinity into her arm, she just ends up feeling a tad more muscular there and nothing more. Yes, she can chalk this one up to her over-reliance on Jesus. Whenever she got even the smallest bruise, he was there to heal her. From now on, any injury that lasts longer than it could will just make her realize how much she took him for granted. With a quiet sigh, Anna inches onto the ledge. She peers down, shivers, then takes a deep breath before jumping. As Anna falls forward, she tries to fix her gaze on Morrigan's, as though her line of sight would work like a tether. When it becomes obvious Anna isn't going to make it, she screams. There's a hard tug at her arm, and Anna notices she isn't falling anymore. She glances up to see that Morrigan's caught her. With an annoyed-sounding grunt, Morrigan hoists Anna up and into the window, all without even putting down the baby.
Geez, you suck,
is all Morrigan says before continuing down the hall. There's a soft giggle coming from the baby, as though it understood what Morrigan said. Seeing as there isn't much she can do, Anna follows. Being treated this way is new to Anna. Back at the apartment, Jesus, Thruth, and everyone took such good care of her. It's like Morrigan expects so much out of her, and when Anna can't oblige, she insults her. Even so, Anna can't deny that there's something leashing her to this girl. Perhaps it's just their physical similarities and shared name, but maybe there's something else too. Something bonding them that Anna can't see but somehow feels. Though given all that's happened in recent memory, Anna could just be looking to fill a void. Glancing out the nearest window, Anna sighs. Had it been the news that Jesus and Thruth would be married that drove her into Morrigan's grasp? Anna shakes her head, trying to rid herself of the notion. That isn't the case, not at all. She wants to be back home with her friends. She wants Jesus to be okay. A peek toward the baby cements a feeling within Anna. She can't leave yet, not without figuring out the origins of that mortal. Jesus always told her that mortals were considered extinct, but he worked every day to see if he could find even a sliver of human life. If he found more humans, he could set the world back on a proper path, whatever that meant. Just because he's dead doesn't mean his dream has to be.
Morrigan.
Anna speaks up to Morrigan for the first time today. Morrigan doesn't stop, doesn't even pay her a pity look.
It'll get confusing if you do that.
As expected, a cold response, though Morrigan does stop for a moment. With her hand still pressed against the baby's back, her gaze flits over Anna.
Call me Thea.
The ends of Anna's lips quiver, threatening to form a tiny smile. For some reason, the name Thea sounds so much prettier to her than Morrigan, though admittedly, Morrigan fits Thea a lot more than it does Anna. In truth, it does leave Anna a bit perplexed. Why would it be confusing to refer to her as Morrigan if that's how she introduces herself? As much as Anna may want clarification, she doesn't want to risk angering Thea further, especially not when she's carrying something as important as the last mortal.
Okay, Thea.
Anna says while taking a few hurried steps forward to close the gap forming between them.
Does the baby have a name?
It's too early to tell if she and Thea could ever really be friends. But Anna does think that bringing up the baby might be a good start. Even with as roughly as Thea handles her, the baby might turn out to be the one thing she does care about. Considering she doesn't eat or sleep very often, all the food she'd stolen must have been for the baby's sake. This makes Anna feel a lot better about the whole thing. For a moment, she considers the possibility that Thea might not be a bad guy after all. Like Thruth, she's probably just misunderstood.
I don't know. Does it need one? How about dump truck?
That quick reply does put a dent in Anna's theory. Okay, so maybe Thea isn't as close to the baby as Anna thought. But that doesn't change the fact that her actions were still done to keep the baby alive. Actions speak louder than words, whether Thea likes it or not.
Jesus used to say that humans make God special, and without them, we'd have no hope. No wonder he's dead.
Okay, Anna didn't need to hear that. Those harsh words threatened to send her back into her shell, but instead she presses on with her idea.
I was wondering if we could call her Hope. I think that might be a pretty fitting name. Not as good as dump truck, but whatever. Her, so this thing's a girl. Sweet means one day she'll be able to make more. Make more? Yeah, eventually.
Like always, Thea is quick to respond. In a swift motion, Thea turns and faces Anna, startling the girl. Thea grins, then falls back right out of an open window. Anna rushes forward to see where she'll land. Confused at first, it takes all of 2 seconds before Anna notices Thea's on a fire escape. Anna follows after Thea as she starts racing up the stairs.
For now, this brat is the only mortal. So technically, everything on Midgard is hers. When she's grown, it'll be mine.
Crass words work like an adhesive that cement Anna in place.
So you're just using Hope.
Thea's nearly on the roof now, and Anna can see, even with a flight of stairs between them, that Thea's stopped too. She looks over the railing, and Anna fears she might drop Hope. Luckily, Thea does have one hand tucked under Hope's rear, preventing the baby from sliding out of her grip.
I'm a god, she's immortal. Not many other relationships we can have aside from parasitic. It's simple, ain't it? When she's old enough to worship me, I'll use her to get stronger. With that strength, I'll rule this realm.
As much as she wishes it wasn't the case, the conversation starts getting to Anna. Her fingers react in kind by curling tight around the railing.
You're the bad guy then.
Don't be some kind of idiot. Good and bad don't exist out here. I look out for myself and hope. If that's good, whatever. If that's bad, whatever.
Jesus told me it's always better to do the right thing.
As though mentioning Jesus is enough to propel her feet forward, Anna walks up the stairs. She reaches Fea in time to hear her directly.
Well, that guy's dead and I'm alive. Don't think in such absolutes. You'll live longer.
Anna nods like she understands, but it's a lie. She'll tell Fea whatever she wants just to keep her from saying any more hurtful things, but these hurtful words feel genuine. It's still nothing like with Jesus, but it's similar. In her hard-edged words are a truth that Anna needs to accept. Jesus is dead. A tremble rushes up her spine at the thought. Tears have to be fought back. There's this new dread in her stomach. She feels Fea might punish her for showing any signs of weakness. How could something be so learned in her after less than a day of contact with someone? It's like something long forgotten is bubbling to the surface when she's with Fea.
Now come on. I think you might like this.
Fea says as she takes to the final steps that would put her on the roof of the apartment. After a soft, contemplative sigh, Anna follows. There's nothing on the roof, and so Anna wonders what it is Fea wants to show her. Before getting the chance to ask, Fea yells something out at the top of her lungs.
Dinner's done! Come and get it! We're having spaghetti!
A chorus of squelches rips Anna's attention from Fea. She looks in the direction of the odd noises and sees something flying in the distance. By the time Anna squints for a better look, that something is overhead. Anna only has enough time to throw her arms up before her and squeak as a gust of wind almost takes her off her feet. She can feel wind beat along the plumage of her skirt. After hearing what sounds like wet noodles thrashing about, Anna lowers her arms. No matter where Anna looks, long, pale noodles fill her line of sight. They lash around, causing tremors whenever they connect with the building. Anna would have lost her footing had she not watched every smack of the long limbs, and time jumps whenever they crash down. Her gaze rushes up along those noodles toward the source, where she finds what looks like a beast made of oversized spaghetti. Two large pulsating meatballs act as a conduit that all the noodles connect to. There are two large stalks extending out from the spheric meat that end with large white eyeballs. The eyes come forward and curl around the girls, with one focusing on Fea and the other wiggling towards Anna. Not exactly keen on being touched by the wet-looking noodle, Anna puts several steps between her and the tentacle. Anna faces ahead to gauge Fea's reaction. From one look, it becomes clear that Fea summoned the beast. Fea cuddles with one of the noodly appendages.
I'm fine, boy, really. You just want some treats, don't you, fatty?
The large creature descends just enough to lower its jowl towards Fea, the perfect placement for her to scratch at what Anna imagines is its chin. All of a sudden, Fea doesn't seem so bad. Just then, Anna feels a puff against her neck, ruining her hair and pushing up her feathered skirt. Anna hears neighing and the sound of hooves stomping just behind her.
Horsey?
Anna whispers as she turns around to find nothing. Perplexed, Anna raises an eyebrow and looks around. She scrunches her nose and winces as she feels something wet brush against her cheek. She didn't see it, but it's definitely a tongue.
You're up there too, IPU. I didn't even have to call you.
Fea laughs while scratching behind one of the giant meatballs.
Looks like she likes you.
Hey, yeah.
Invisible pink unicorn. She's definitely a unicorn, and obviously invisible. You'll just have to trust me when I say she's pink.
Fea waltzes over and holds Hope up. Then once she's past Anna, she drops her. Anna motions to grab Hope, afraid she'll fall to the ground, but instead, the baby just seems to float there. Hope giggles and bounces up and down on what Anna has to believe is an invisible equine.
You should try saying hi to the flying spaghetti monster as well. He gets jealous really easily.
As Fea says this, a noodle drapes over Anna's shoulder, causing her to shiver. Why does it have to be so damp? Between noodly hugs and invisible nuzzles, Anna decides to probe Fea.
So, are these your pets? They look like they really get along with Hope.
One of FSM's noodles extend out and over them. The large tendril swings in front of Hope, causing even more laughter to erupt from the infant.
Pets? I guess you can call them that.
Fea says, crossing her arms. She looks at Anna, and while her expression still falls under the happy category, it looks a whole lot more devious than before.
They're some of my first underlings. Swearing fealty to me isn't all bad. You should give it a try.
Fea says this all while offering Anna a hand. Anna's gaze dips down, and she watches as Fea turns her hand. It's held out in such a way that Anna knows Fea wants her to kiss the back of it, like she's some kind of queen. This moment persists between the girls, and is only broken by Fea glancing in another direction. She scoffs under her breath. Then, without another word, runs to the side of the building, leaps, and transforms into a raven. Curiosity leads Anna to follow. She's nearing the side of the building when she comes to a stop. Anna pays one quick glance back to Hope, and she's still playing with Fea's underlings. So long as the baby's okay, then there's nothing to worry about, so Anna jumps. She doesn't change nearly as fast as Fea, she can't, but does manage to do so before hitting the ground. Fea hadn't flown far, and Anna can see Fea take on her humanoid body again, several buildings away. Returning to her regular form, Anna rolls onto her feet, not too far behind Fea.
Did I tell you to follow me?
Fea inquires, an angry look tossed over her shoulder at Anna. Anna can't say why she followed Fea, only that she did. Fea shakes her head and looks forward. In hopes of seeing what caught the girl's attention, Anna looks ahead. Much like the grounds of the city and the halls of the apartment, the rooftop is covered in black feathers. By now, Anna figures the feathers alert Fea of everything going on within her domain. Maybe if Anna thought to do this to her room, Jesus would still be here. Aside from the feathers, there's nothing strange about the roof. Maybe Fea's here ahead of time? Or simply thought she saw something that wasn't there. The thoughts don't go much deeper than that before Anna hears a new voice.
Sir, do you really think it's a good idea to take her stuff?
Noticing the aggravated look on Fea's face, Anna attempts a calming touch. Right when she would make contact, Fea shrugs her shoulders, forcing Anna's hand away.
What kind of a question is that? I'm a king, aren't I? Who needs permission when you're royalty? Besides, it's not like we've got much of a choice anyway.
I guess that makes sense, but doesn't it seem kind of mean? Won't they miss it?
There's the girl's voice again, and from the sound of it, she's arguing as Anna would. Just when she's feeling caught up in the conversation, she hears Fea snort. First thing Anna sees come over the side of the building is a mane of blonde hair. A tanned arm comes out next and grips the edge of the roof. A shirtless boy pulls himself up with ease, a full-looking sack hanging off his shoulder. The large boy looks older and rougher than Anna or any of her friends. His hair is a wild blonde mess, parted by two bullish horns at the sides of his head. His eyes are like that of a lion, and his skin is tan, just like Jesus was.
Come on! Don't be dense, Surtur. It's cool. Trust me,
He says without noticing Fea or Anna as he walks along the rooftop. Fea's tapping her foot, and Anna can hear the irritation in the sound of her sharp claws scraping the ground. Though she's sure Fea's trying to make her frustration obvious, the boy still doesn't notice.
Oh, you asked them first and got permission? How nice of them.
The soft voice from earlier calls out from the side of the apartment. She takes a lot longer to pull herself up than he did, but that's just because there seems to be so much more of her. Blondish white wool extends from the top of her head all the way down her back. Two spiraled horns sit nestled in the wool at the sides of her head. Her arms and legs have the same sheepiness to them, covered in wool and ending in hooves. Prominent among all the puffiness are a series of bright blue bows that decorate her attire. Besides the bows, she wouldn't really call much of what she's wearing an outfit. It's basically just a bikini top and a long loincloth. She's large, bigger than any girl Anna knew personally, especially in her chest region. Anna thought that Athena would be the biggest girl she'd ever see, but this person takes the cake. The sheep girl scurries onto the rooftop and rolls into a sitting position. A hard look from the boy makes her hurry to her feet.
She's big. Ugh, she's top-heavy is what she is. Just means it'll be easier to take her down.
Anna steps up, putting herself at Fea's side, and notices that Fea's arms are crossed beneath her own chest. She's squeezing herself and using her folded arms to prop what little of her there is up. Anna glances up and sees Fea's cheeks reddening.
A body like that doesn't do anyone any favors in battle. Who would want to look like that anyway?
The sheep girl trots toward the boy.
Sir, do we really need to be doing all of this? I'm sure if you asked your father, he...
A loud thunk cuts her off as the boy drops the sack and whips around and glares at his comrade.
I don't need that old bastard's help for anything.
He waves his arms around, gesturing to the ruined buildings surrounding them.
Look around. You can thank guys like him for all of this.
He barks, then scoops up the sack, an ugly scowl on his face.
If we do this, it's going to be on our own. A king doesn't need help from anyone.
He turns on his heel.
Besides, we don't even know if the bastard is alive.
The silence following the boy's words end when the girl begins clapping. A tiny bleat escapes the girl, and there's a wide grin on her face.
This is why I follow you. You know so much. I learn more and more and more from you every day. You're the greatest king in the whole wide world, sir.
Hearing the two's conversation gives Anna some context. At first she thought the boy was a petty thief with a cute sidekick. But after listening to them, there might be more to the two. Maybe Feya's right when she says Anna shouldn't think in such absolutes. People who appear good might be bad, and bad people can be good. As she considers this, she looks up at Feya, whose face shows just how fed up she is with the display before her.
Maybe they're taking food for a baby too?
Anna reasons, not caring if the other two heard her, so long as Feya considers the option. She reaches out again to touch Feya, but once more the girl avoids her. Following a long groan, Feya trudges toward the two.
Hey!
She calls out at the top of her lungs. Did the building just shake?
What the hell do you think you're doing, Gilgamesh?
Feya crosses her arms and once again starts drumming her foot in an annoyed pitter-patter. So, Feya knows these two. The boy, Gilgamesh, spins around and his eyes widen when he sees Feya. He stops, sets down the sack and crosses his arms, an annoyed scowl on his face.
You again? The hell do you want? You're pretty far from your turf, aren't you, Morgan?
Gilgamesh growls while narrowing his eyes. A small smirk creases Feya's lips as she responds.
Last ass whooping wasn't enough for you. Back for more?
Gilgamesh scoffs, then hooks a thumb under his nose.
Ha! Big talk for someone who got the jump on me in their own domain. You really think you could take me on otherwise?
It's pretty easy for Anna to paste things together from here. She knows Feya has multiple territories, and now, from the looks of it, when she fights someone, even in her own domain, she lets them live. It happened with Anna's friends and these two burglars as well. She glances to Feya, who's just staring at Gilgamesh while he rants. In spite of her earlier bravado, Feya doesn't seem to kill her opponents. So that means that there might be some good in her. Maybe she just has a hard time admitting it? Once again, Anna feels a smile growing on her face. It's looking like Feya's just like Anna when Jesus first found her. A really good person who just needs some guidance. That's it. That had to be the reason Anna stayed around. There's good inside of Feya, and Anna wants to be the one to bring it out. The sheep girl looks from Gilgamesh to Feya, then back again. In an obvious show of confusion, she blinks, but then her eyes perk up.
Sir, it's the Phantom Queen! We need to run away. You remember what happened last time, don't you? Please, sir, I don't want you to get hurt again.
She cries, grabbing one of Gilgamesh's arms and pulling it into her chest. From the looks of it, she almost yanks him off his feet. Gilgamesh's face flushes. The blushing boy thrashes around in the girl's grip in a fruitless attempt to free himself.
Hey, get off me, searcher. Last time was a fluke. A fluke, I tell ya. Have some faith in your king.
Oh, she's so worried about him.
Anna pouts and tries reaching for Feya again. Like each time before, Feya manages to get around Anna's attempt. How can she sense her coming? Oh, right. Anna looks down at the feathers covering the rooftop. With a sigh, Anna continues.
Just let them go. You've defeated them before, right? They're clearly harmless.
Feya sighs, and in the next second, she's gone. Anna doesn't realize where she's disappeared to until she hears a grunt from Gilgamesh. Anna looks over to find Feya standing before him with one arm extended out and Gilgamesh reeling back. He almost goes flying off the roof, but after a tiny step forward, Feya manages to grab his leg. She whips her arm upwards, tossing him onto the rooftop, but away from the sack he'd attempted to steal. Without a second wasted, he springs up, rubs a hand over his stomach, and growls at Feya.
Wait. Seriously? This place is your domain too?
Is all Gilgamesh manages before he's falling down on his rear. Feya's new placement is at his side with her leg out behind him. She stands up, adjusts the sack over her shoulder, then sighs.
Gee, a landscape covered in feathers. Guess nobody lives here. You should probably grab some more divinity before trying this again. It'll make you less of a bother and more of an annoyance. Maybe then I'll actually have fun kicking your ass.
Gilgamesh looks like he's trying to stand up again, but as soon as he gets to his feet, he falls back down. Several bruises appear all over his body, and blood erupts from his nose. Sircha rushes over and drops down at his side.
Sir, are you okay?
The sheep girl asks, while pulling some wool from her arm and pressing it against Gilgamesh's nose. He winces and tries to back away. The hand she has nestled against the back of his head keeps him in place. Anna stands there in disbelief. Her eyes are wide and she's quivering. It's obvious she's no warrior, but she didn't think she was so inexperienced as to not be able to see the physical attacks before her. Anna counted one punch and a leg sweep from Feya, yet Gilgamesh's body shows damage from multiple attacks. How could Feya have managed all that in a moment's time? Though somehow the sight of it does calm Anna, because earlier Feya said that she couldn't defeat her friends. If this is how good Feya is, then that says so much about Thruth, Athena, and Kebishet. While forcing himself up, Gilgamesh shouts,
Tuh, I'm fine!
Blood is still rushing from his nose, over his lips, and down his chin. He tries lapping up the blood. It's futile, and he just ends up spitting out a bunch of blood anyway. Surtur is at his side again, trying to tug him away.
Sir, please, let's just go home. Everyone is waiting for us and...
Narrowing his eyes, Gilgamesh snaps at Surtur.
Are you thick or something?
Surtur's cheeks flush and she pouts, then places both hands on her soft-looking midsection.
Well...
I didn't mean like that. I meant your skull. The hell do you think we're doing out here in the first place? We can't go back empty-handed. Not with everyone depending on me.
Sir, please. Haven't you done enough already? You've already left most of your divinity to help protect the city and...
Shut up!
Gilgamesh shouts, cutting Surtur off. She seems just as surprised as Anna is, evident by a widening of her eyes and a shivering of her shoulders. He looks to her with a frightening expression, one twisted and warped by the damage Faye has done and the ever-flowing blood from his nose. A tanned palm thrusts towards her, and Gilgamesh glares expectantly.
Instead of sitting on the sidelines convincing me to throw in the towel, how's about you make yourself useful as any good shower would?
That savage scowl refocuses on Fea, who for all intents and purposes seems unfazed by his glares.
Why don't you help me smash her?
Gilgamesh's choice of words strikes Anna as odd. It's clear he wants Surtur to join the battle and assist in smashing Fea, but what's a sharur? Clearly it's Surtur's title, but what duties does such a thing entail? Anna watches intently, curious if any clues might shine through in Surtur's response. When Surtur stands, she looks to Gilgamesh, and there's something almost apologetic about the way she nods. Yet her soft look becomes passive when she turns her sights on Fea. Amber eyes narrow and hooves smack the ground before Surtur jumps into the air. She makes it much higher up than Anna thought a girl of her size could. As the sheep girl twirls through the sky, her body begins to glow. Soon all hints of a solid, fluffy form are lost within a display of flashing lights and rushing winds. Once a buxom woolen woman, now a ball of light. The glowing sphere rockets into Gilgamesh's grip, where it changes shape again. Gilgamesh doesn't even wait for Surtur's transformation to end, as he's already taking off towards Fea. Quickly, Anna looks over at Fea, curious as to how she'd react, because in truth, Anna has no idea what's going on. Of course, Fea still looks confident. What did Anna expect? She's fought them before, so this light show couldn't be that out of the ordinary for her. With every loud smack of his sandal-clad feet against the ground, Fea nods. She rocks back and forth on the balls of her feet, and there's rhythm to the way she's rolling her shoulders. No doubt some kind of pregame ritual that she's failed to do until now. Guess Gilgamesh pulled out all the stops, and Fea is going to have to get serious. By the time Anna hears Gilgamesh yelling at the top of his lungs, he's come into her line of sight. As the large boy spins, the spherical ball of light finishes forming its shape. Though obviously a weapon, Anna can't discern specifics until right when it would make contact with Fea. A large mace slams into the ground, splitting the roof. With a head resembling ram horns and light blue bows scattered along wool trim, Anna can't help but think the weapon's cute. It all comes at once after that, the sickening feeling of vertigo and the realization that there's no longer any ground to stand on. What was once beneath her is now above her, and the kind of contents that would fill an apartment, like furniture, spill out into the sky around her. Even though Anna should be concerned about her current airborne state, she can't shake a different feeling rolling around in her mind. Where's Fea? Past scattered floorboards, shredded futons, and cascading bricks, Anna sees feathers. Black quills look as though they're falling, floating, at the same rate as everything else. But when Anna really focuses on them, even she can see they're moving about with eerie intention. There's an odd sensation to be had when witnessing the calm before a storm. Anna's plumage rustles about unlike any time before. She feels like it's a warning. Something's coming. At last, she spots someone through the tumbling remains of the apartment. Gilgamesh springs off any piece of debris he can to keep himself afloat. Even though he's in free fall, he doesn't seem to care much and is just looking around for Fea.
I'd even wind up. At best, at a magnitude of 8. Even if it did devastate a block or two, he'd survive that easily.
Anna's taken back by Gilgamesh's boast. Was that possible? She looks around and sure enough, more than just one building went down. An entire block had crumbled beneath a single swing. All that destruction, and yet she herself only felt a little nauseated, but nothing more. But she wasn't the point of impact like Fea was. Could a girl as small as Fea really survive an attack that could collapse buildings? Questions and concerns are all picked up by a wind that rushes past Anna. That breeze carries Anna along scattered bits of the destruction and is rich with black feathers. There's a gentleness to the bed of down beneath her, and it's almost enough to distract from buildings still giving out after Gilgamesh's assault. As she looks around, she notices more and more feathers pooling together, converging around her. So many feathers come together in the breeze that Anna loses sight of the outside world. The sky, the sun, and everything else gets lost in a sea of black that snaps into place and fastens around the girl. All sound, sight, and even smell are lost in black, but it only lasts seconds. Like an egg, Anna feels her spherical feather cage tap against something before it begins to peel back, letting light spill in. Beneath Anna is a rooftop. When all the feathers have broken from around her, she can see them dancing freely in the same gale that must have carried her to safety. From where she stands now, she can see the brunt of Gilgamesh's destruction, but she also sees the black feathers swirling around as though they're alive. Quills move in and out from around each other with purpose as they come together to lift debris and repair anything that looks even the least bit salvageable. As Anna watches, she reaches for her own feathers. Sights such as feathers laying flat along cracked windows, then transmuting into unbroken glass, inspire and frighten her. If this is what Fea is capable of already, then she can't even imagine the kind of things she'd be able to do with hope. Should she worry? Should this be some kind of dark omen? A warning that she should now run, flee to her home, and warn Thruth and the others? Her own claws scrape at the ground, much like Fea's did earlier. Hesitation is enough to get her heels going, but nothing propels her. Instead, she remains glued, charmed by the thought that such talents could be used for good.
Fight me!
Anna spins in the direction of Gilgamesh's voice, and there she finds him, careening towards the building. Gilgamesh's body slams down and manages a bounce or two before sliding to a stop. He looks up and jumps to his feet in time to guard against a stream of incoming feathers. They rocket towards him, and he bats away several, but can't swing his large arms nearly as quick as the attacks come in. Despite being feathers, when deflected, they clank against the ground as though made of some kind of metal. When a feather does manage to whiz through Gilgamesh's defenses, it leaves a cut. Anna keeps looking back and forth between Gilgamesh, swinging at the swarm of black quills, and the few that have fallen wayside. Maybe she would have kept watching Gilgamesh himself had the deflected feathers not continued to rock with signs of life. Slowly, the feathers on the ground start to float towards one another. Yet again, the feathers converge and take shape, but not as a protective dome like with Anna. Instead, the feathers take on the little shape of a little girl, Fea. Once the final feathers form and contort into her plumage collar, they all ruffle and her colors return. No longer is there a bushel of feathers standing behind Gilgamesh, but instead Fea herself.
Fighting me from afar doesn't prove anything,
Gilgamesh says in deep pants. It's clear in both his stance and the lackluster swings that he hasn't much energy left. His cute mace, Sirtir, begins to glow. Before Anna can even entertain the idea that she's going to return, Gilgamesh yells.
Shut it! I got this.
It doesn't go beyond that. Fea makes herself known by way of a roundhouse kick to the back of Gilgamesh's head. The attack, while coming from someone less than half his height, sends Gilgamesh hurtling forwards. Unfortunately for him, it's right into an oncoming onslaught of sharpened feathers. Anna winces, unsure if she should watch as someone takes so much unnecessary damage. Despite knowing it'll be gruesome, Anna continues watching. Part of her believes that Gilgamesh can still survive this. She still theorizes, hopes, Fea isn't trying to kill anyone. The sharur in Gilgamesh's hand glows once more as it returns to the form of Sirtir. Gilgamesh pants but gets no answer as Sirtir holds tight in front of him. Seems she's intent on taking the brunt of the attack. This, Anna can't stand for. Sirtir hadn't done anything wrong. At least Gilgamesh was the same ilk as Fea, and both of them knew what they were getting into by being so nasty to others. Sirtir, on the other hand, seems a lot like Anna, and really didn't deserve to get hurt. But because she's like her, Anna understands why Sirtir's protecting Gilgamesh. Even though she knows there's nothing she can do, Anna still lunges forward anyway. Several feathers fly by, and Anna sees feather ribbon around Gilgamesh and Sirtir. A raised hand from Fea is all it takes, and her train of feathers soften and float to the ground. There's a careless glance tossed over Fea's shoulders as Gilgamesh and Sirtir scoot along the ground beside her. Even though Fea took care of it, Anna keeps running towards the two. By the time she reaches the pair, Sirtir is once again tending to Gilgamesh's wounds. There's a sulk on his tattered face and a pout on hers. The pair fought hard, and against the Phantom Queen of all people. Given what Sirtir said earlier, it was all for the benefit of their people. If what she's been saying is true, Gilgamesh is a king who's willing to fight for his kingdom, no matter the odds. Anna's eyes shift focus from the two on the ground before her to Fea, gauging the other girl's reaction. Anna walks until she's right before the two. Sirtir glances down, and their eyes meet.
The Phantom Queen? She has a sister?
That's right. Anna needs to remember just how similar she and Fea look. They're no doubt going to be mistaken for sisters. She crouches down near the two. Anna peeks up at Sirtir, offering a soft smile and open hand. Sirtir understands and takes a clump of her wool and hands it to Anna. Anna starts tending to the other wounds on Gilgamesh's body.
You're a great king.
Anna says out of the blue, while running her hand gently across one of the bruises on Gilgamesh's shoulder.
You fight so hard, and you travel so far for them. Even if you come back empty-handed, they should appreciate it. How hard you're working.
Anna's eyes dip down, falling on the blood-stained ground beneath her.
Even if they don't say it much, I'm sure they know you're working hard every day to make the world a better place for them.
Anna looks up at him, noticing that his lion eyes have fallen on her.
So, I thank you, King Gilgamesh.
She can remember how many times they left, both of them, Jesus and Thruth, both taking off for longer and longer periods at a time. At first, she just thought maybe they needed time away from her because of how much she relied on them. Even if they said they were working, Anna always believed it was something else. Now, after watching Gilgamesh and knowing just how hard Thruth was willing to fight against someone as strong as Feia, Anna realizes how much her friends care about her. Jesus and Thruth were trying to make the world a better place, and getting married might have been the best way to do that. She should have said thank you to them. She should have stayed put in that room and just been grateful for everyone doing their best. Then she would still be with them. Jesus would still be... Anna feels a cold wetness begin to leak from the corner of her eyes. When she reaches up to her cheek, she feels a soft, cottony mass brush against her face. She looks up to see Sirtir dabbing away at her cheeks with a bit of wool, a soft, reassuring smile on the girl's face.
I'm sorry, sir. I don't say thank you enough. I don't think I know any king who would fight against the Phantom Queen herself and survive this many times to talk about it, let alone try again. You're so amazing, I can't handle it. I'm really lucky to be your friend.
Anna peeks at Gilgamesh and sees that there's some red to his face, and this time it isn't blood. He scratches at the back of his wild blonde hair and sighs.
Yeah. You ought to be grateful. I deserve an award or something.
How is about a hug for now? Great job, King Sir.
Damn it, Surtur. You're crushing me. Ugh. Watch it. My ribs are broken.
Gilgamesh complains, whipping an arm around from beneath the larger girl. He looks like he's in trouble, but Anna doesn't help, because his cheeks are reddening further, and if she didn't know better, she would say it almost looks like Gilgamesh is trying not to smile. Anna looks over, curious as to what Feia's been doing this entire time. She's sitting on the side of the building, facing everyone, but not directly looking at them. Anna lets out a soft sigh before standing up, dusting off her rear, and approaching Feia. Before she can get a word in, Feia's on her feet and walking back over to Gilgamesh and Sirtir. That felt kind of pointless on her part, but she follows anyway.
You know the offer still stands, right? All you gotta do is bow to me. I'll give you some divinity or orison, or whatever it is you need, and you can take it back to your people. What I'm saying is, you don't have to go home empty-handed, Gilgamesh. Not this time.
She holds out her hand.
Come on.
Gilgamesh sits in silence, looking hard up at Feia's hand. It's like Anna can see the gears turning in his head. When Gilgamesh stands, he dusts himself off, then shakes his head.
Thanks, but no thanks, Morgan. What kind of a king would I be if I just took a knee every time somebody kicked my ass?
A smart one.
It's not up to me. I got people to look out for. Can't just hand myself over like that.
He glances to Anna.
But I think you get it. I'll figure something out. Always do.
Fine then. I don't really care. Just thought you were gonna think about your people for once. But you got too much pride in you.
You're one to talk, little lady. Ha! From one ruler to another? Sorry for wandering into your turf uninvited. My bad.
Feia walks away from Gilgamesh. Anna looks out into the distance in time to see FSM flying over.
Don't mention it. Just keep hoping I never find yours.
You really want to risk fighting me with a home advantage?
Gilgamesh manages to say before being silenced by another hit to his face. This time, it doesn't come by Feia's fist, but rather by the very bag he tried stealing earlier.
You got lucky,
Feia says.
That's what you'll tell him. None of this, I got a good hit in, or she showed me mercy. If I hear any of that, I really may kill you next time.
Feia glances to Sirtir.
Hey, Jiggles!
She motions her over.
Make sure your king starts telling the truth. I'm gonna come for him if he doesn't. Capiche?
Sirtir bleats, then stands up straight. Moving around in such a hurry causes her body to jiggle in several places, giving credence to the nickname Feia had given her.
Yes, ma'am. I will make sure Sir tells the truth no matter what. I've been doing my best to keep him out of trouble. I just have to try a bit harder is all. It's good to know that you finally got an advisor too. I can only wonder what would have happened if you and Sir met without either of us being here.
Anna feels a bit of heat come to her cheeks after receiving such a title from Sirtir. While it's her intention to guide Feya away from being so mean, she doubts her words to Gilgamesh had any effect on this moment. Though this doesn't stop Anna from wondering the same. What would have happened had she not been there?
Advisor? Nah, never really needed one. I've got loyal subjects. I don't need anyone telling me how to rule them.
With that said, she steps off the roof. The flying spaghetti monster is at the side of the building and catches Feya just as she falls. It brings its noodle up with Feya on top of it and sets her down beside Hope, right behind one of its eye stalks.
Get your ass up here, Annie.
Anna's face flushes. She hadn't formally introduced herself to Feya, and yet she knows her name is Anna. Probably because of Thruth and the others, but why does she have to call her by that nickname? Anna isn't complaining, partly due to fear of how Feya might react, but also because it's nice to hear it again.
There's a lot I wanted to do today before these jackasses showed up.
When Feya finishes, Anna nods and rushes to the edge of the rooftop. Unlike Feya, she doesn't jump and instead holds her arms up and out. FSM wraps a noodle around her waist and lifts her onto him. Still not used to the feeling, Anna shivers.
You two better be long gone by the time I get back, and don't you dare think about taking anything else. IPU is wandering around, and it'd be a shame if one of you got gored by an invisible pink unicorn.
Sirtir spins around in an excited flourish. Her massive chest almost clocks Gilgamesh in the head as she twirls.
Whoa! Watch where you aim those things!
Gilgamesh complains after ducking. He stands and tosses the bag over his shoulder. The boy gives Feya one more look and a nod before running in the opposite direction. Once he reaches the rim of the rooftop, he jumps. From rooftop to streetlight, Gilgamesh blazes through anything in his path by way of confident flips. From where Anna can see, he's showing no signs of slowing down. A loud bleat puts Anna's attention on Sirtir, who's dancing around in place.
Sir, wait for me! You know I have to take the stairs!
She turns and looks up at FSM overhead, waves, then rushes towards the fire escape.
They seem nice.
They're assholes.
Following her blunt words, Feya puts her hands on FSM's eye stalks.
Okay, boy. We gotta really make up for the lost time. How about it? You ready? Bon appetit.
Next thing Anna knows, she's flying upwards at a breakneck speed. Anna starts losing her balance, but several noodles move around her and lock the girl in place. Anna can't see anything on account of her hair whipping about in every direction. All the while, she can hear both Feya and the baby laughing.
I probably should have told you to hold on.
It's really beautiful, the sight of the sunset from this high in the sky. Anna reaches out to touch clouds as they run by. The softness and look of it all remind her of her new friend, Sirtir. It actually feels really good to be able to smile after all the stuff that's happened. They've been flying for a little over an hour, and Hope's fallen asleep. There hadn't been a word between her or Feya, so she takes the risk and makes the first move.
That was really nice back there. What you did for Gilgamesh, I mean.
Anna slides down one noodle so that she's able to sit next to Feya. She watches as the similar-looking girl stares out at the long stretch of sky before them.
Is he a friend of yours? It sounded like you've talked to him a lot in the past, and
Feya cuts Anna off with a snicker. That snicker grows into laughter. A laughter unlike any Anna's ever heard. This laughter scares Anna.
You really are an idiot, aren't ya?
Feya looks at Anna, and Anna feels her heart skip a beat. It's the look in her eyes that does it. In all those stories about the Phantom Queen, Anna always imagines what her eyes might look like while taking pleasure in hurting others. The look Feya gives her is exactly as Anna feared it would be, a haunting gaze brimming with malevolent intent.
Don't mistake my actions. He's not my friend. No one is. Stop thinking in absolutes.
what do you mean?
You remember when you were buying the sob story of a couple of assholes you just met? Yeah, when you weren't looking, I slipped a few of my feathers into their bag. They probably won't notice until it's already too late.
Anna's eyes widen. What does Feya mean by too late? Anna can't ask, as the same thing that shackled her voice when Jesus said his last words to her gets to her again. So her silence invites Feya to finish.
I'm going to remotely take over Gilgamesh's domain. Little by little, my divinity will take its hold, and then, when I'm good and ready, I'll show up there and force him to swear his fealty to me.
Feya looks over her shoulder and begins to tilt her head while focusing her dark gaze on Anna, trapping her in those evil eyes.
I couldn't have done it without you, though. So I owe you some things for distracting them to the point that they let their guards down.
She bares her fangs.
You did that.
There's a tug in Anna's stomach. Her entire body goes cold, and she can't help but throw herself in a direction opposite Fea. She turns around and lays against FSN. Tears come to Anna's eyes and rush down her cheeks. This time, for the first time, there's nobody there to comfort her. She sobs into her hands as the sound of Fea's evil laughter becomes white noise and mixes with the crackling winds. She's done a bad thing.